there, my name is Landon Huber, and I'm a musician, an illustrator, and a comic book artist. I also do surrealist painting, and welcome to my 6th art process video. In this video, I will be coloring a drawing I did previously in pen and ink. This will be a drawing of the Frankenborg. Who is the Frankenborg, you might ask? The Frankenborg is a genetically enhanced super cyborg monster created by the one and only Jeff Lafferty and is featured in his groundbreaking original new comic, The Berserkernaut. In my 4th art process video, I previously colored another pen and ink drawing I did of the Berserkernaut himself using alcohol markers. But in this video, I have chosen to color this art using predominantly golden transparent acrylic paint, high flow. You will see how I build up the layers, working with thin washes at first, then building in more and more colors as I go. The Frankenborg, in my opinion, is one of the coolest looking new characters I've seen in a while. Shout out to Jeff Lafferty for creating this awesome design. I recently went on Jeff's show for the first time in a live stream, wherein, for those who are interested, you can see the actual penciling of this piece as I discuss comics, movies, and the nitty-gritty of the art business with Jeff and Jibrin Redinger. If you're interested in watching that show, see the link to it in the description. Thanks again to Jeff for having me on. Well, enough jibber jabber. So now, without any further ado, let's start coloring.
So as you can see here, I'm still using pretty muted colors. I don't want to start off with anything too strong, because if you do that, it's a lot more difficult to go backwards. Making all the colors strong right off the get-go, it's easier to build it up. So start with desaturated colors and then build the saturation as you go. And so far I'm just mostly filling in local color and using mostly washes at this point. And I'm using washes to create a sense of lightness and darkness in certain areas. So in the places I want the highlights, I'm leaving less of the local color in those places. And the places that are going to go more to shadow, I'm filling in. Even though later I'm going to go in and add the shadow colors. Because this guy's like a giant cyborg monster, got all these different pieces of robotics on his head. A lot of those are going to be more silver color. The way I'm doing it, again, it's my version of Jeff's character, staying true to the feeling of the character while trying to put my own spin on it. And I noticed Jeff kind of drew him differently in the comic. He never looks exactly the same, and even from panel to panel. But that's just Jeff's style. You can see I'm going in now and saturating with a little bit darker saturated green in the shadow areas. I'm thinking I'm going to be doing 2 light sources, so I'm going to have a main light source which is warm coming from the right, and then I'll have a cool light source as kind of like a bounce light coming from the left. Now I'm just starting to fill in the silver pieces with a light gray, keeping it light at first because it's easy to get darker, but it's a little bit harder to get lighter when you're working in washes like this and you wanted to be able to see the line art. I'm being messy with the water. I think it looks cool having those water splotches in there. now at this point I'm still mostly just going in and filling in local color, filling in grays and that machinery, those tubes and wires and broken metal pieces down there. Now you can see I've started to do the cool bounce light on the left side. And the way I see it, that light would hit all those veins and cracks and crevices in his skin. His rotting green skin. And the light would be hitting his feet as well. Pretty much most of the things on that side of the body. As you're painting, you're always thinking about light. Now to give everything a bit of punch, I'm using a bright reddish pink hue, which is a complement of the green. When you use complementary colors together, it creates a lot of energy and a bit of a psychedelic eye play. I've chosen to have the reds kind of gradate into a purple near the bottom there. And then the purple will fade into the broken machinery and smoke. Seems like the Frankenborg is always doing some crazy stuff like setting off bombs and causing havoc and terror. Perhaps he just exploded this hole in the wall and came through, getting ready to clobber on old Zerkanaut. So as you can see, I'm now adding my main light source, which is a warm light source. Once again, possibly from a explosive or fire. It's just happening off camera. I like to use a lot of color, and this creates like eye candy. But for certain effects, you do want to dial down the color. That's where it's kind of all about your artistic decisions that you're making while you're working on a piece. You decide what color you want it to be and why you make it that color. The color of objects is a combination of the local color of the object and the light source, and the power of the light source upon which object it is. Also, the type of material plays a role in the color it will be. That fly out of here. And as the warm light hits the smoke, creates a yellowish tint to the smoke itself. So that's what I'm doing now. I don't have a lot of pigment on the brush, just a little bit. It's almost like a dry brush. Just feathering in the pigment bit by bit. And then going in with the cools. And it's not a hard and fast rule, but I usually like to have a good balance between warms and cools in a piece. However, if you want the picture to be cool, you go cool. If you want it to be warm, you go warm. I'm bringing in some of that red now down on the floor. Almost kind of like a residue or some kind of a reflection. Or probably even more than that, just an overall balance of the color. Not every decision I make is based on logic. Sometimes it's based on just instinct. Again, going in with the feathering of the dry brush. Right there, probably the main reason I'm choosing to go in with the red is just for the overall balance of red in the piece. Not necessarily a logical reason, but perhaps it's blood on the ground, or perhaps a reflection of the light coming behind the Frankenborg. Just so you know, I don't really paint that fast. But I wanted to cover a lot of ground quickly, show you kind of how I go all around the piece, just covering the area with the semi-dry brush. Just a little bit of pigment and water. And now darkening. Working in the cools. And the shades, and trying to give the picture more depth and dimension by getting some contrast with the darks. Bringing down that red light. Which fades into purple. If my mind has an idea, I usually won't be content until I do it. Doesn't matter how hard it is or easy it is, you just go for it. If your brain is telling you to do something, you do it. important not to be afraid of your picture. It's important not to be afraid to make decisions. And the more you do it, the more you learn, the better you'll get. And that's part of the whole fun of learning how to do art. Just being creative. But you do have to learn also how to make the right kinds of decisions. You can't just go in like a loose cannon without any idea of what's going to happen once you do a thing. Now you can see the tones and the saturation starting to get closer to the way they're going to look in the final thing. All done by basic layering. And as it goes into the cool, you see the green become a little bit more of a bluish green because there's a cool light on that side. And then as it goes towards the yellow light, the green becomes more of a yellowish green because there's a yellowish light on that side, or a warmish light on that side. So the colors all kind of blend together. And the main thought I had with this was just that I wanted to create impact. I wanted you to hear the Frankenborg coming out of the picture at you. Like,
I'm gonna get you, berserker nut! Come here!
now, as you can see, I'm using the fan brush to create a kind of chaotic effect, sometimes blending with a giant Q-tip. Now with the dry fan brush, kind of feathering out some of those wet areas. Sometimes for seeing just the abstract shapes and colors, I turn it upside down to get another perspective on it, or another point of view on the art. And then just going in and adding in the finer details of the darker green shadows. Just amping up some of the line work a bit, actually. And then as you do this, it really starts to add a three-dimensionality to the forms and shapes. Always thinking about the lightness or darkness of a color that you're putting down. It's very important to think about that. And you don't always get it right, you know. Sometimes there's happy accidents and maybe you just like the way it looks, so you live with it. To me, it's more important to get the energy and the vibe than to make every stroke be some kind of a clean perfection. You can have a messy perfection. Get more of a kinetic energy in the brushwork itself. Fan brushes are good for that. More cool shadow detail. Just refining it bit by bit as you get closer. then usually at this stage I do take a moment to just stop and take a look at it. Think about it for a minute before going and making a lot of these final decisions. The whole thing about art is not a thoughtless, random event. It's very, very thoughtful, planned event. I'm using acrylic paint. It's a tiny bit of warm color mixed in with white to go ahead and punch up some of those highlights a bit. One thing that toothbrushes are really good for, spackling, spatter, and crazy effects. One time I saw this guy draw or paint an entire picture with just a toothbrush. I thought, why am I wasting all this money on brushes? Just more and more fine-tuning. Now before the final round of finishing touches, I'm just going in and drying everything that I already have out. So that way when the paint sits on top, it'll be not remixing too much with the paint that's under it. And now comes the part in every piece when it really starts to come alive. As you near the completion, you find something close to what you had imagined. When is a piece finished? Only you can decide. Nobody can tell you when a piece is finished. But maybe the best time to call a piece finished is when it stops talking to you. When it says, hey buddy, you did a good job. It's time to call it a day.
And now, At last, it's finally finished. Wow, he looks pretty crazy. Like he's ready to put the old Berserkina in his place, once and for all. He definitely don't look like he'll be finished wreaking havoc on his victims anytime soon. I like how it came out. I think the red gives it a bit of pop, which for me worked out pretty good in this one. Let's put him in the finished pile. I should also add that, in my opinion, it's always a good idea after a piece is finished to apply a varnish to it. It really helps to deepen the colors and bring out the three-dimensionality of a piece even more. I usually do it with all my colored or painted pieces, but keep in mind to always wait until the painting is completely dry before applying a varnish to it. Well, if you liked the video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I would appreciate it if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment below to let me know what you guys thought of the video. Also, for more information about me, or if you're interested in a commission, please see the description below. Oh, and I want to give one more big thanks to Jeff Lafferty for creating this awesome new villain, the Frankenborg. And with that, always remember, be creative. Bye for now. I'll be seeing you in the next video.